Welcome to Speak Out Unfiltered.
Father, we just thank you today, Lord. We thank you for your blessings upon Grenada, blessings, oh God, to all the listeners and all the contribution. We pray, Lord, that you're going to keep us in your lovely hand, all of us, oh God, to enter into a new year. And I thank you for doing it today. In Jesus' precious name.
Bringing the hot topics to you.
Could we please be informed that there are no bad children, it's just bad parents. That is the reason, not children, it's only bad parents.
Bad parents.
Working together.
Well, the amount of transformation I see transforming around Carriacou. With long life, health and strength, man want.
That's what you want now, right?
Yes, because I'm looking forward for big things, as in Jamaica say, big things are going on for 2024.
Connecting the dots.
I want to encourage the one man to continue with his one-man men.
Yes,
Exactly.
Because it's the benefit of the country. What did he do for Carriacou? All these things that you say, whenever they make statements, the recording is there. You know, we in the media, we have it.
Working together.
Yes, so I want to grade him pursuant to senior Cambridge, so to speak. I want to give him A+.
Speak Out Unfiltered.
It's always an opportunity that I look forward to when we can discuss and look at the issues that affect us together as a people.
So, the budget was really a good budget. The government is doing a whole lot. They're doing for the people. They open the eyes of the people. This budget is the best budget I heard since after the revolution. I never heard a budget good like that, and it's for the people. A people's budget, you call that. I am very pleased with this government.
Speak Out Unfiltered. The opinions and ideologies expressed on this program, Speak Out Unfiltered, it's the views of its rightful owners and not of Vibes FM 101.3. Speak Out Unfiltered.
Every Thursday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Unfiltered. And I mean it.
And it's just about time for me to say good morning again to you right here on Vibes FM. Welcome to the program Speak Out Unfiltered for today, Thursday. We're looking at the 23rd day of May. Good morning, good morning, good morning to all listeners in the trial and state of Petit Martinique, Carriacou, Grenada. Good morning to you. And our neighbors next door, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, good morning as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. And those of you on radio, wherever you are, on our Facebook page is already filling up there, our YouTube as well. We want to welcome all of you to the program. To remind you, it's interactive and you can always call us at 443-0101. Again, that's 443-0101 or 439-0101. Those are the landlines. 439-0101. You can also call us on our WhatsApp numbers, and the area code is 473. We have 403-0101. 403-0101 and 534-3097. 534-3097. As always, we have a lot of things on for discussion this morning, but to remind you this morning that our program would be sort of tailored a little bit shorter than normal, and that's because of the funeral of the late Franklin Augustine Roberts, Paddy, who will be buried today, okay? The funeral is today. But let me go right over now and say good morning to you, Koi. Good morning. What's up, Koi?
Good morning to you. Good morning to you, Kim.
What's up? Tell me.
Boy, lot of things happening.
Yes, I know that.
Of course, starting going back to a couple of days ago, we had the regatta. Mm-hmm. So things started happening before that actually, but I'm just saying in terms of what's been happening here on land and on sea. I think we have had a very successful regatta in Pitimatnik. And the reports that I have been having and comments I have been getting is that it was well spent. It was a weekend well spent in Pitimatnik. So I think with that in mind, we can go forward to plan future activities and to look forward and to learn the lessons in one way or the other.
But speaking about Pitimatnik Regatta, and if I were to just come in here for just a second,
Yeah.
I mean, the organizers in Pitimatnik, they always do a fantastic job. But this year, I want to say they do a fantastic job.
Oh, fantastica.
Fantastic. Really,
Yeah.
the production that comes out of Pitimatnik all the time, is just something else.
Yeah.
And we have to applaud them each and every time, because what they are doing is so commendable, and is just so important for us to sometimes speak about the contributions that Pitimatnik is making, and when it comes especially to the culture, the way they organize themselves. And really, I applaud them 100, 200, 300, and I just keep going with those percentages.
I think this is what you can't get everything one time. There's a developmental process. It's growing. And talking about regatta and so on, and what happened in PM. We too here on Carriacou, we having our own soon, and I'm saying I would like to see that process of improvement continues here on Island as well. Of course, I know it will when we have people like Sir Leo being involved in this and so on. So I'm just saying it looks positive. It looks like something positive, and a lot of good things are going to be happening going forward. So I look forward. Okay. I'm around. I'm here.
Okay. All right. And as you just mentioned, Sir Leo, let me just go over to you, Sir Leo, and say good morning to you. Sir Leo, what's up? Tell me.
Good morning, my Redeemer. And no excuse for being late, except that when you have competent colleagues, you could afford to be a little tardy sometimes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
By the vote of confidence.
Yes,
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but so you excuse you? You excuse you, okay.
But it's like you can punish me after you get such a big...
Okay, but as usual, we have a lot of things on for discussion, and I told our listeners today our program today will be tailored a little bit shorter than normal, and that's because of the funeral of the late Paddy, otherwise known as Franklin Augustine Roberts.
Yes.
And, just thinking about him and thinking about the contribution and thinking about the type of person he was.
Yes.
Makes you sad, It makes you proud to a certain extent that you have, nurtured someone, someone of the nature. You produced them, but when they have to go, it's never easy.
What a fella.
Yes.
I tell you what, we go a long way back. Actually, he followed me at the customs,
Oh, yes, you guys are the things that way back there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because after I left, and he took over for a couple of years later.
Right, yeah.
And then, but we've been friends ever since.
Yeah.
Very close friends, yeah.
Well, he was a friend to everybody.
Just about, yeah. If you vex with Paddy, something wrong with you.
And listen to some of the comments, from some of the people, who I know who have interacted with him. They said to me, Paddy didn't know the word no.
No. There was one feeling. I go see what I could do.
Serious, Every time, he just was the type of person who's always there for people. And give you encouragement,
I tell you, not people alone, In his later years, if you take a drive down along the Lauriston Strip, and you see Paddy's vehicle parked there, he's feeding the birds,
Yes, I know that.
I know that.
I know that.
He was just a human being. So he was good to man and beast.
Yeah, because a couple of times, early in the morning, I was down in the Lauriston Beach, more on the what we call behind sands.
Yeah, behind sands.
And then when they come and he see me, he say, "What, you want to join me? Do you want to be nice to them this morning?" Yeah. And those are the things, But in general, there's a lot of people who are speaking a lot about him, and we really going to miss him. He'll be missed.
I realize that you all are in the same business, same business. You all can be referred to as businessmen in Carriacou. yes? So Leo, yourself, and there are others who making their own contribution in their own way. Did you see him as a competitor, or did you see him as someone who complemented the process of helping people in Carriacou? I'm asking this question to both of you all because you are the businessmen.
Well, let me. I'm insisting on going first. If you're in competition, you're not with Paddy because he's not in competition with you. Paddy was all
never.
Live and let live. Live and let live. You can. I'm telling you, there's nothing to be angry with Paddy about because everything is going to take it with a smile.
Every time.
Yes.
Every time.
Yes.
Whenever he comes by me, he says, he used to call me Brother Mills or Brother Kim, Brother Kim, what's up? And sometimes you feel so attached because, when he give you this kind of greeting, and someone who's elder than you, and he's called your brother, you could see how the connection is making there.
Yeah.
You see, back in the days, Cosnell Batiste, Roger Gay, who incidentally was his colleague at Bishop's College because he taught there.
They taught together,
they taught together. And Charles One Bowles and the whole gang of us, when we get together as a love, I always remember Carriacou in the 60s. And sometimes when people come to Carriacou now and they say, Carriacou is such a nice place, I say, you look, you didn't come here in the 60s, you'll never live. You don't find out. You'd stay forever. Yeah.
Well, these are some of the things that you remember, and I know quite a number of the business places, today will be closed.
Yes, closed.
I'm still hearing the question about the competition, and I'm saying to myself here that business are going to be, as you have just said there, Kim, business places will close in respect to honor and to remember someone who lived among and lived with, and as Sir Leo says, not in competition. And that is an important fact. You're in business, right?
Yes, you're in business.
You're in business. But the idea of that kind of camaraderie and that kind of oneness. I think it's a positive vibe when we can reach each other at this level, where in spite of the fact that we're into business, whatever we are doing, we can still understand that we are part of each other and that we are one.
But Mr. Coy, that's the way it should be.
Yeah, no, it should.
Carriacou already doesn't have enough people to really say do business and all those good things. Where you getting people to vex with other? We can't afford it.
No, you can't.
Not time for that. We have people for that.
No.
Barely have to do what level it we have to do around it. No, vex not at all.
And speaking about him again in the light after he was in customs, right? And then he decided to go into his own personal business.
Yes.
And he started off at a certain level, as most people would,
Tell me about the business again, something lantern.
Colored lantern.
Colored lantern.
Colored lantern.
Colored lantern.
No, colored lantern, eh?
Yeah, colored lantern.
Yeah.
Boy, was a nice place to hang out with Paddy.
Yes.
And he had a lot of support.
Well, again, it's a people's person, so you can.
And every time he called, Brother Mills, Brother Kim, you want to come by me this weekend, or you whatever, you're busy, and things like that, and not even that, but the sort of people that were hanging around and were with him, supporting him, just make.
Even in his laughter.
Yeah.
What you call belly full laugh,
Yeah.
Yes, mindless laugh. When he end time talking,
I know that thing.
Yeah.
And even in the business, that he went into the hardware, lumber and everything like that there too. He has made a big impact. As a matter of fact, right now in Carriacou, that's the number one hardware supplies.
Yes.
Yeah. And the good thing about it that I see and I feel very good about, is that his children, his kids, they are right there taking the mantle on,
What I always tell you, any child that is close to the parents and are supportive of the parents, I automatically love them. It's a given, because to
They
me...
don't have to do anything else.
No. Once you go to your parents and help your parents, you go to my book. That is nothing more. That's the big... What else to do?
Well, of course, yes.
You have your parents brought into this world. They did everything for you, try to give you a start, and then all you have to do is take the baton and run with it. Yeah. What else you have to do? It pains me when you see sometimes, and too often you see it in America. And I think it's because, again, we don't always give our children what we got, because we grew up in an environment where it worked for us. And even though it worked for us, we're getting rid of it. They say when it don't break, don't fix it.
Yes,
You don't need to.
Do what you know.
Right.
So you live here, you try to adapt to what's happening elsewhere. That's not you.
Yeah.
So you find yourself doing things and following fashion. You're out of your culture. You're out of that. You're not your person anymore.
Yeah.
And that is a signal of going the wrong directions on many occasions.
Yeah.
I look at a lot of people from Carriacou in America. Well, your children should gladly have to look forward. They should gladly have to look forward. So the beast, oh God, well, you have all the opportunity to make yourself somebody. Why do you want to head for Rikers Island?
Yeah.
I guess it has space. There's no all no. But
yeah.
I also want to. I'm speaking. I mean, I know Paddy to a certain extent, of course, But I also remember that he's from Pitimatnik originally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, right on. I'm saying. So, Pitimatnik.
But we stole him. We stole him from Pitimatnik.
We stole him?
Yeah, we had to.
He's from Pitimatnik, but and in particular, Madame Pierre.
Yeah.
Madame Pierre. Yeah. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yes. I know. I know them. You know.
Yeah. But when he came into Carriacou, of course, he just fit right in.
Yeah, of course. That's different.
Did I hear you say all the one that he taught you to teach?
Huh?
Yeah.
No, I'm just trying to get the.
He taught me in Bishop's College. He taught me in Bishop's College. Yes.
And then he worked at the customs here as a customs officer.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, I cannot say he taught me in college, but I know him, been around, and his businesses and so on. Especially, I remember the days of Colored Lantern. I remember that in those days. In those days, I've been around. So yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes, I know. We do have a situation here where we are looking at business people from Pitimatnik. Yes.
Turn the other one. One side.
All right. So it is also important to observe, gentlemen, the camaraderie and the link between Pitimatnik and Carriacou. Either you involved in some shipwreck, not shipwreck, but
shipwright.
Shipwright, yes, or involved in some. The businessmen of those days were involved in a particular trade. Yeah. The build boats and so on. So I'm just trying to look at the whole thing, the connection with businessmen in Carriacou and Pitimatnik, and how they link and how they function. And here we are, stopping to pay tribute to one of those persons who passed on.
Made a big impact.
Yes.
And just walking into the studio right now, let me just say good morning again to you, man of the soil. Sometimes I get very kind of stall a little bit when I have to introduce someone like Mr. Anselm Clouden.
But by the way, don't give him the whole hog. He's a bogle man.
He's a
and give him the whole carrot.
Yeah, bogle man. That's a Richard deal.
Yes, Mr. Clouden, good morning.
Thank you, Kim. And morning to the listening audience. It's always a pleasure to be on your station whenever I'm at home.
Yeah. Yes, and nice to have you here as well too. You're always welcome, you know that.
Yeah.
And yes, go ahead, you were saying.
But let me seize the opportunity to pay my respect and extend heartfelt and sincere condolences to the family of the late Paddy Roberts. He was my good friend. In a sense, I learned a lot from him during the days when he was at Customs, and they started to, as it were, intercept our boats coming in. Paddy was never in favor of it, but he had to enforce the law. And he did his duty, discharged his duty with great admiration.
He did?
Yes, he did. And part of the reason, I think, for Paddy's success is that he was such a magnanimous fellow. He helped everybody he could help. Everyone that went to him for help, he was always so willing, ready, and able to assist. So we have lost a good man, a great son of the soil of Carriacou and Petit Martinique.
Yeah, definitely. And that you just what we were saying earlier on too, in that he was one of those persons who would never say no.
That's right.
Never say no. Always there to help whatever way he can. And as you mentioned even earlier on too, when there was this crackdown in customs and things like that, he was one of those who would get there and calm things down.
Yes.
Make a difference. Because we sometimes panic. Yeah. We sometimes get angry, and he wasn't that type of person. He was just easy, let's deal with this, one-on-one, wherever, and come to some kind of solution that everybody's, comfortable with. And again, he'll be missed. He'll be really missed.
Truly missed.
Yes.
Let me take this opportunity to give you a little bit of background of this fellow. The apple didn't fall so close to the tree, I tell you why. No. His dad, Cosnell, another seaman, everybody else. But I tell you, whenever Cosnell would come to Carriacou, he must come with the band practicing to hear how we sounding and what instruments we need. So
very true.
Yes, he had a dual task.
My coy shop right on the corner.
You'll find him there.
And he plays the violin there too.
He was like that, eh?
Yes.
Well, it's nice though, but all in all, like we always say, at some point in time, we'll have to go. And whenever that happens, we just, as we sometimes would say, may the Lord come to bless and
may you rest in peace.
Rest in peace, indeed.
But one question for you, Mr. Cloud. There is that famous Nova Scotian schooner.
Blue Nose, was it? Blue Nose, yeah.
It's Blue Nose. I
Blue
think
Nose,
that's
used to come from Boston all along the East Coast.
Correct. What he said was the first very fast sailor. First on the banks, first back home. And the thing was going around in my head. It's Blue Nose.
Blue Nose, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was talking when you mentioned Petit Martinique and the boat building skills. Our closest replica to Blue Nose was the Seaflame J, The Seaflame J built by John Caesar.
PM.
Yes, the father of Michael and O'Connell and those boys.
Yes.
That thing, that was our Blue Nose.
Okay.
Yeah. Nothing was as pretty or as fast as this.
But you know what just amazed me? You started to ask Mr. Clouden a question, but you didn't finish. But the answer came.
Give him a clue.
Yes, right. Okay, that's it. Yeah. But just moving along, though, Mr. Clouden, I asked you this morning to come in here, on our program, and our program today, we want to remind our listeners, will be tailored short because we have to take time out, for the funeral, to attend the funeral.
Yes.
Of Paddy, and that is one of the reasons why we are having a shortened version of the today. Of Speak Out Unfiltered, okay? But the reason you were asked to come in here this morning is because with this new government, they are looking at ways and means of sort of looking into the marijuana, the cannabis, and you are one of those who's been involved for the longest while and is known to be, as a matter of fact, there is a board right now that's set up. Your position in there?
I'm the chairperson on the working committee that was constituted by cabinet to advise on the implementation of the cannabis legislation as a whole, to make recommendations to Cabinet with respect to introducing amendments in the first instance to the Drug Prevention and Control Act, and also to, as it were, participate in public discussion with respect to the implementation of legislation, with respect to decriminalization, legalization, medicinal use, setting up a cannabis medicinal authority, and also to encourage industrial use by way of hemp cultivation, and ultimately religious use. I think I would wish to just, in a mouthful of English, give a synopsis of what I think the legislation contemplates. The objectives of the act, or the proposed act, would be to prevent young persons from accessing cannabis, to protect public health and public safety by establishing strict product safety and product quality requirements, and to deter criminal activity by imposing serious criminal penalties for those operating outside the legal framework. The Act also contemplates, by way of its amendment and ultimate legalization, it is intended to reduce the burden on the criminal justice system in relation to cannabis. And finally, and most importantly, it is to provide medicinal cannabis for treatment of persons seriously ill who have consulted with a doctor and have no therapeutic alternative but to be administered medicinal cannabis. Now, this is a multi-million-dollar industry. St. Vincent, for that matter, has introduced into their legislation establish a medicinal cannabis authority. And there they have a rather sophisticated method of dispensing with medicinal cannabis. We are also contemplating a similar framework to have dispense under certain regulatory safeguards medicinal cannabis to persons who are seriously ill. Let me just say this also, Kim. The Rastafarian community must be given paramount consideration in whatever legislative framework we introduce to, as it were, deal with the religious and sacramental aspect of the consumption of cannabis. So that, and the Constitution of Grenada makes certain special provision for their protection. Now, Antigua, a fellow OECS country who has followed the CARICOM recommendation, have enshrined in their legislation the use of cannabis for religious and sacramental purposes. There's nothing unconstitutional about giving the Rastafarian community special consideration. As a matter of fact, to be quite frank, in the CARICOM report of the CARICOM Regional Commission on Marijuana in 2018, recommended that special provisions should be made to protect religious rights in the new regime. And indeed, this was reflected in the Antiguan regulation, cannabis for sacramental and religious purposes. Now, the Constitution of Grenada makes provision for the freedom of expression, freedom of conscience, and freedom of religion. so that there's nothing inconsistent with the constitutional protective provision when it deals with cannabis for religious purposes. The Rastafarian community use it sacramentally and in the context of their worship. And we should do all we can to make adequate and sufficient accommodation for their religious and sacramental use in the legislation. For example, Antigua permit the use of cannabis for religious purposes. That's pursuant to the Antigua and Barbuda Cannabis Act of 2018. Now, just imagine how far advanced these countries are and where we are. Speaking of an industry, as I'll point out, that makes billions of dollars wherever the medicinal cannabis is being cultivated. St. Vincent, our closest neighbor, ship millions and millions of dollars of medicinal cannabis to the European Union because of certain bilateral agreements between CARICOM and the European Union. We are able to access that market. Now, this is for medicinal cannabis. Let me not jump ahead quickly, but let me deal in paramateria with the Antiguan provision with respect to the Rastafarian body using cannabis for religious purposes. Antigua, you make an application for the authorization by the authority, cultivation of cannabis by a religious body, sacramental dispensaries, so that since they use it sacramentally, it's very much akin to the Eucharist in the Catholic Church, where you have the consecration and transfiguration of blood into body and bread into wine. Body and blood. So that, and no one questions this, because it's sacramental. Well, the Rastafarians are also entitled, since they use it and have been using it for centuries. Cannabis has been used by prehistoric and traditional persons in North America, the Indians in Canada. They've been using cannabis until the alcohol lobby came in and prohibited the use of cannabis. It wasn't until just recently, 1932, that this herb was outlawed. So that I seriously recommend that consideration be given to the Rastafarian where they can use it religiously, possession of cannabis authorized for religious use, use of cannabis at private dwelling place of worship or at exempt events. That sort of structure within a legislative framework would no doubt enhance the industry itself. And this is a special consideration given to them. It doesn't affect them as citizens if they use it recreationally or people use it recreationally. People can do that. But this is specifically designed for religious and sacramental use. Now, there's been, in recent times, Germany for that matter, cannabis industry in Germany. Cannabis in Germany has been legal for recreational usage by adults age 18 and over. We have a debate as to whether we should stipulate age 18 or 21. Well, it doesn't matter, whichever. The whole idea is to prevent the use of cannabis by young people, so that there will be certain legislative requirements that, for example, you can't smoke around schools. If there's a permission to use a certain quantity, personal possession, there are certain areas that will be prohibited for you to smoke, and it is prohibited to encourage young people to smoke. You won't be visited with a penal sanction, but you will be visited with a fixed penalty by way of money or some other means of qualitative control of young people, counseling, and the like. So that the primary objective of the legislation in this regard is to control its use by young people. You don't find young people going into a shop and ordering 8 a rum or ordering a cigarette. In the same manner that is being controlled, cannabis use among youth could be likewise controlled in that manner, legislatively. For example, in Germany, it is said as of April 1st, 2024, they decriminalized cannabis and claim that over 4.5 million Germans use cannabis recreationally. So this is a big market for us. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that if we structure this industry in a certain manner, there could be little doubt that this would redound to the economic development of Grenada. Let me just point out something to you. This is a study, a report that was done, Kim, Conference of Churches in Grenada and the Interagency Group of Development Organization. This was a trade center roundtable discussion, Friday, 22nd January 2021, just before the election. The LNP administration sought to well, they said they were going to decriminalize it, and they said about having public discussions. This was one such discussion. And this is what they had in their own report. Although I felt they were never serious about introducing or decriminalizing marijuana, and I'll tell you why. So it was more or less of an election ploy, but it just didn't work. This government is intent on delivering on its promise, and this is why we are where we are now. There are consultants being retained, and we are moving full speed ahead to get an amendment to the Drug Prevention and Control Act no later than July of this year. Everybody is asking when this thing is going to take legislative control of the industry itself. Now, this is what was said. Opportunities. And this is why our people must be cognizant of the fact that this is an industry. The cannabis industry is not just about smoking. It's about medicine. It's about religion. It's about industrial development. And, of course, export of this product to foreign countries that can't grow it because of the climatic conditions. And it is in high demand as a medicine, a medicinal drug. So this is opportunities that was listed in their own report. Economic potential. The report called for greater awareness of the economic potential and opportunities for local and international businesses in regard to marijuana. Dr. Fletcher described it as an opportunity for the region to get the feet off the necks and allow us to breathe. Global market. Globally, marijuana was a $1 billion industry, according to global statistics. USA market, USD 9 million. Canadian market, USD 2.8 billion. It is expected to reach 9.2 billion by 2025. Export potential. Dr. Fletcher cited Euromonitor statistics, which reflect a huge export potential for THC oil. And globally, it is now determined that the oil is really the main healing, has the healing propensities more so than any other aspect of the CDB. For example, there was a program done by Sandra Gupta, a noted neurologist in the United States, on CNN, Weed 1, 2, and 3 series. And there was this little child from New Jersey. And at the time, New Jersey had outlawed cannabis. So if you were found with possession, then of course you go to jail or you fine heavily. This child came down with epilepsy, just a few months old, 6 months or thereabout. And it had these violent tremors, incurable. But it was published in Germany that the oil, if administered under the tongue of infants, it would reduce the tremor. Just as a study was done in Israel with respect to Parkinson's. And you see these fellows shaking that could hardly hold their pipes or hold onto anything. But half an hour after consumption of medicinal cannabis with the CDB, the shaking, the violent shaking stops for hours, 8-9 hours before it returns. So that in some instances, it may not be a cure, but certainly it is a treatment. In the case of this little child that was in New Jersey, they had to move to Colorado because by then Colorado had legalized possession and the like. So the family uprooted themselves and went to Colorado with this little 6-month-old baby. They planted specific marijuana that contained high levels of CDB. And this industry too, I must mention, it's really a scientific exploration into the potentiality of the herb itself. Because this young lady was healed of her violent epileptic attacks. It decreased over time until it went away. So indeed that substantiates our quest for the cultivation under, of course, a legislative framework. And that framework would emerge as it has emerged in Canada, where it's legal, both medicinal, recreational, and otherwise. Germany, England, St. Vincent, or where have you. The international demand for cannabis is there, and therefore it is our bounden duty to exploit the market with what you call it, spice weed. Because if we go to nutmeg, we go to cocoa, we go to cinnamon, we must be boss in marijuana too. It's only a matter of time. And already you have fellas asking not for kush on the market. There are fellas say, if your people come in, they want some spice weed. Because the local weed tastes real good. Now let me tell you why there is an emergency to get this legislation passed, to amend the Drug Prevention and Control Act. That act itself is draconian, and the penalties are severe. For one marijuana cigarette, you could be sent to prison for 5 years, or you can be fined $250,000. That is not usually done. But the fact is, what happens if you are convicted of one marijuana cigarette, it goes on your record as a conviction for a narcotic. And the international, as you know, the UN, and we are signatories to that treaty that outlaws the use of narcotics, and cannabis had fallen under that regulation. Recently, America has moved it from a Schedule 1 to a Schedule 3, which brings it under the Food and Drug Administration. Now, let me tell you what is happening that brings about this thing so urgently. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cut it down. Now, let me tell you what has happened. And I'll read you an example so that you would no doubt appreciate why there is a fierce urgency of now to get an amendment to the Drug Prevention and Control Act. It is ruining the opportunities of our young people. This is a case in point. And let me read to you and to the public at large what had transpired in this instance. This is the police officer, Elvin PC 216, IC of Prosecution Department, dated 17 February 2022, possession of controlled drug to wit cannabis. My name is Kelvin Evelyn, Police Constable 216, a member of the Royal Grenada Police Force, presently attached to the Rapid Response. On Friday, the 4th of February 2022, I reported and left on mobile patrol in the company of PC 904 Roberts and PC 549 Antoine. During the patrol at Paraclete, St. Andrews, I noticed a young man walking along the Paradise main road with a black bag across his body, walking away from the transport. He then turned, looked at the transport, and quickly turned away. That aroused my suspicion. I then exited the transport, approached him, and identified myself. I then informed him of my suspicion, and a search would be carried out on him, and he said, okay. He then said, officer, I have a scissors and a little weed in my bag. I then searched the bag and found a clear plastic bag with dry plant material resembling that of cannabis, wrapped in a clear plastic wrap. I immediately cautioned him and asked him the reason for having this in his possession. He then stated, I just have it. I then informed him of the offense and placed him under arrest for possession of a controlled drug with cannabis, valued at $602. He was then taken to the Granville police station, where he gave his name to the diarist. I won't call his name. 20 years sale clerk of Dunfermline, St. Andrew. The exhibit was weighed in his presence. Weight 4.3 ounces, labeled, signed, and dated by me. I also invited him to place his mark, which he did by signing and dating it. His rights were then shown, read, and explained to him as a person in custody, and he was handed over to the diarist. Now, this is a young man, 20 years old, okay? He's a sales clerk of Dunfermline run distillery or whatever business they have there in St. Andrews. Well, he went to court. He had to plead guilty. He's given a conviction. Where is he going to go to find a university, to find a good job that will take him in, given the current climate with respect to simple possession under the Drug Prevention and Control Act? It is for persons like this young man who has tremendous potential, but for the fact that he smokes, he's apprehended. He wasn't disturbing anybody. He was walking his merry way. He looked at the car, turned away. That arose suspicion. Well, that can be reasonable and probable grounds to hold him. But be that as it may, the point I want to make, the amendment to the legislation is specifically to avoid such injustice being perpetrated on our young people.
Yeah.
Is there any questions, or we go into the public? So that, to be quite frank, Canada, CARICOM in its report. Let me just give you a little bird's eye view as to what CARICOM had recommended with respect to governments adopting this recommendation. Now, a recommendation of CARICOM. They state that it is in the interest of each country to the agreement that there should be a complete and immediate removal of all prohibitive legal provisions, thereby rendering cannabis, marijuana, a legal substance which is regulated only in strictly defined circumstances, or as a proprietary step, the decriminalization of cannabis, marijuana for personal use in private premises and medical purposes. CARICOM further recommends full prohibition for children and adolescents with an appropriate age limit. As I have indicated, that age limit could be 18 or it could be 21, whichever the public accepts. With appropriate age limit should be maintained except for medicinal reasons. However, young people who use marijuana will be directed to treatment and diversion programs rather than being prosecuted or criminalized. The law should enact legal definitions of hemp based on low THC levels and make clear distinctions between hemp and other varieties of cannabis, and ensuring that all legal sanctions be removed from hemp and hemp products. And it continues, and this is one of the tremendous advantages. St. Vincent has done it. CARICOM has recommended it. To get a license to cultivate, either for medicinal or, in this instance, in particular, recreational purposes, you must undertake to plant vegetable crops between the marijuana, because it is sustainable, so that it will enhance our agricultural platform in that you can plant cabbage, carrots, rather than having a tremendous import bill on vegetables coming in. You want a license to plant, say, 2-3 acres of cannabis, you must also undertake to plant 2-3 acres of vegetables. Okay? And that would be a condition of the license, which indirectly would enhance our agricultural platform. So it says here, custom laws should be amended to make provisions for the import and export of cannabis and cannabis products as appropriate. Already Jamaica imports cannabis from Canada. This is well known, well documented. They cannot supply the local market, nor do they have the capacity yet to engage, as St. Vincent did, with respect to medicinal cannabis for export. So they have been importing cannabis from Canada. And also legislation should be promulgated to avoid the implications of anti-money laundering and proceeds of crime legislation, which currently prohibit legitimate banking and other financial transactions for illegal cannabis. Commercial cannabis activities will need to be legalized, so that the bank and the money laundering laws that we have here, where these men, if you have an ounce of cannabis and you a few marijuana sticks and you have $2,000, you're going to buy something commercial in the commercial market. They pick you up and say that money as a result of criminal conduct, and they take your money. I mean, there's a manifest injustice going on in society, and we have to correct it. So this is legislation that is contemplated, and I hope it goes far enough, as CARICOM has recommended, to pass appropriate legislation that would make commercial activities with cannabis legal, and that you can bank your money. St. Vincent has had some difficulty, and they have had certain Canadian concessions, but initially they had problems with this anti-money laundering legislation that has been handed down to us by the bigger countries. So small farmers and small business persons should be included in production and supply arrangements with appropriate controls limiting large enterprise and foreign involvement. But naturally, and I visited St. Vincent and I saw how they built the medicinal cannabis industry. It's a whole area of scientific research. Now, we are sort of ahead of them in the sense that we have a university, St. George's University, that with certain bilateral arrangements can assist us in doing the necessary research with respect to seed engineering, because we need a seed bank. We're starting from scratch. So that there's an aspect to it, and St. Vincent has it. Dr. Thompson, Dr. Cummins, these are well-trained scientists who go into what is called seed engineering, for want of a better scientific word, to determine the potency of the seed itself with respect to high quality and yield, so that when you export medicinal cannabis, it has to comply with certain international standards. And therefore, we would have to involve our institution to assist us in creating the seeds that are very potent in a particular aspect of the medicine. For example, the same tree that is grown for epilepsy cannot be grown for, let's say, Parkinson's. You need to extrapolate from that seed that specific medicinal quality for that particular ailment. As a matter of fact, this is what Germany had to do. And Germany has said that even without necessarily getting the full legislation, in February 2008, 7 German patients were legally being treated with medicinal cannabis distributed by prescription in pharmacies. So it tells you how far back, since 2008, they have been experimenting with medicinal cannabis without even passing the full legislation, but passing permissive legislation so that people who are seriously ill can be administered cannabis. This says, on May 4th, 2016, the Cabinet of Germany approved legislation allowing the use of cannabis for seriously ill patients who have consulted with a doctor and have no therapeutic alternative but to be administered cannabis for their particular ailment. And medical devices to companies for growing medicinal cannabis and import according to strict EU GMP standards. St. Vincent has complied with those standards because St. Vincent cannabis goes into the European Union, including Germany. You see? So they have been able to comply with those standards, and this is why we have, through bilateral and mutual agreement, we can piggyback on them and get assistance from them as to how they have been able to engineer such high quality production so they comply with the international market and standards with respect to the export of medicinal cannabis. As of March 2017, the seriously ill can obtain cannabis with a doctor's prescription paid for by the health insurance. So that what we are doing now is really following the CARICOM recommendations, looking at our brothers and sisters in other jurisdictions, and shaping our legislation that our legislative authority could be used by other countries. And this is why we have taken this aspect of the cannabis industry so seriously.
But I remember you went to St. Vincent.
Yes, I did.
You went there to basically, I would imagine, to observe the operation.
That's correct.
And so you could make recommendations and things like that, you know.
That's correct.
And what did you see there? Like, you see the exporting of cannabis, you know, as very economical for growth?
Yes, indeed. Well, they're netting millions and millions of dollars as a result of the cannabis industry in St. Vincent. But look at it, Kim, we don't have to go very far. Most of our cannabis come from St. Vincent. Millions and millions of dollars, our revenue go to St. Vincent to buy 200, 300 pounds. These guys man the ocean, bring cannabis in, the demand is there for it. And so they're making, they drain our treasury, man. Of course.
So we didn't put anything in the treasury.
but when I say that money could go to the government that goes to the St. Vincent government. You know, if we had it grown here, and we have the best weed. Any smoker would tell you spice weed is the best weed on the market now, but it cannot be commercialized. But tourists come in and they're asking them, I mean, for spice weed, they hear about the spice weed.
I was told that the Vincentian weed, those in particular is grown close to the volcano.
Yeah.
It's the baddest thing in town.
Because of the phosphorus.
That's what I heard. Right?
Yeah. That's what, because of the phosphorus in the soil.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Clouden,
Yes.
congratulations on being appointed chairman of the commission to deal with this whole biggest industry, as you refer to it. I think it is indeed a big industry. Now, I heard you complaining about, and you refer to the laws as draconian laws in regards to the penalties for being caught with illegal substance. What do you think? I mean, if this is so important and so good and so beneficial, what do you think motivated them to have such laws, draconian laws, in an attempt to control it? I mean, it is good. I mean, we listen to you bring out all the benefits and say where those things are. But yet for all, our own people here many years ago developed these laws to try and stop it. Why?
Yeah. Well, because there are other competing industries. Remember, since 1932, the reason it became outlawed and unlawful was because of the development of the alcoholic industry in the West. Remember the days of prohibition. You had bootlegging in America. And cannabis was giving them good competition, especially this is something used by the native people. And you know how they put them on reservations and the like and how they suffered. So this was as a direct result of the growing alcohol industry. And we had supplied it, we still supply it, we haven't donated something called cane co, back to producing sugar cane for alcohol. And they wouldn't want to compete with the cannabis industry. Because you see, cannabis is harmless to adults. There's some evidence that it's harmful to children and young people under the age of 18 because the brain is still developing. But it's medicinally treatable to infants. It depends on the use to which it's being put and how it's being used. So there's nothing, they outlawed it because they didn't want that competition. And just as they don't want the money derived from cannabis to go into the bank, legitimate money, from a legitimate plant, a herb. It's nothing you manufacture. You put the seed in the ground, it grows. And they outlaw that. If you sell a pound, 2 pounds of that, you can't go in the bank because they want the source of funds. You can't open an account now. You can't make a deposit over $10,000. I don't know how Leo feared. But that's a constraint beyond them. Not of our own doing, but because we're part of this global economic village.
So you mentioned about license that would be given to certain individuals, you know, to grow particular types.
Yes.
For depends on what is required.
That's true.
Yeah. How do you monitor that? How do you?
Well, there'll be inspectors set up. This is a sophisticated industry. There'll be a legal framework that deals specifically with tracking, testing. An inspector would come on your farm to determine the quality of the product. You can't, you're licensed to sell a certain amount. And that's it. If you go in excess of it, there'll be penalties. It's not a free-for-all.
Well, let me say this. Back to basics, because before there was the banks, Republic Bank and all these good banks, below the mattress existed, you know.
Yes.
And below stone in the bush existed. So do what you have to do.
So for you, it's back to basics.
But there will be a cannabis tracking system, right? And the legislation, of course, one can't speak to every specific provision of the legislation, but there will be a cannabis tracking system. There will be inspections, designation of inspectors, certificate of designation, provisions of document information or samples. All these things will be properly tested. Because if you, for example, the medicinal aspect of cannabis commercialization, you have to have, and I saw these greenhouses, and I mean, millions and millions of dollars invested in the cannabis medicinal industry. In St. Vincent, you have 5-6 greenhouses, and the testing, sometimes you have to put fans in, the temperature must be at a certain level, and these inspectors come by, they do the testing. If you ship it and it doesn't comply with the international standard, as you see the German legislation spoke to it, that whole batch, you have to throw it out.
Reject.
Because remember, the CGB is not,
Reject.
You have to reject it.
So you have to meet that quality. The
Quality control.
What do
Product
they
must
do
be
with
of a
the-
high quality.
When it doesn't meet, sorry, let me ask this question. When it doesn't meet standard and quality, what is done with it?
Well, if it doesn't meet it, you have to dump it. Because you see, it's dangerous to consume for all kind of ailments. It depends on what batch, for what sickness, as the case may be. Suppose you preparing for epilepsy, okay, and you fall below the accepted standard required by the medicinal authority. You have to throw that away.
So reject.
But because it doesn't have the THC, you can't give it to the recreational people.
Okay.
But because it wasn't grown, the seeds are not designed for that purpose. The recreational purpose, the THC that make you feel good. The CDB is to heal you. It's not a good feeling. Understand? It's medicinal. And if it doesn't satisfy the medicinal requirement, you have to dump it.
So
at a loss of millions and millions of dollars. They told us so in St. Vincent when we went there. Fellow said look, his laboratory alone was $20 million. That's just to track and to monitor the development of the plant itself. Millions of dollars invested. But you see in Canada, billions of dollars coming in revenue.
Right. Okay.
So could you imagine if we get serious and plant medicinal marijuana for export, come up with a standard. We have the research capability with our university right there. We could move leaps and bounds, man.
What are the designations again? Medicinal and recreational and THC and all these good things, because I'm afraid if we those that should be grown for medicinal purposes, what heading that come under?
What?
Heading or what this THC weighted BA, ABC, I know what it is.
That's what we're doing, medicinal cannabis. The dronabinol, DRONABINOL. That's one of the substances.
Okay.
Was researched in 1994 from Annex 1 to Annex 2 of the narcotics law. And that's the German thing. In order to ease research, in 1998, dronabinol, I can't remember, was rescheduled for Annex 2 to Annex 3.
It's written in Latin.
Although, it's German. THC is still listed in Annex 1. In a few cases, patients have been able to obtain from the Federal Drug Authority a special permit to import natural cannabis through a pharmacy manufacturing instructions for dronabinol, DRONABINOL, containing compendial formulations described in the something.
This
tells you that There have been a lot of research going into this thing.
Yeah, Bob Marley says it's good for meditation. Bob Marley says it'll make you meditate. I want to know which one of them, which is THC or
THC.
But I want to smoke that one.
But you don't smoke that yet. You smoke that yet.
Because
you want to meditate?
Yeah.
Want to meditate?
When I listen to Bob Marley is a serious fellow. You know?
And if that contributes to his seriousness, you want to meditate.
That's what I want to do.
Yes.
Mr. Glenn, what I'm concerned about is, and I believe a lot of folks, especially young people, talk about with this legislation that, sort of the record, the name, you see a young man with a few little thing in a bag and then you have to take him in and then, he has this record. I think a lot of folks would be really
well, there's an amnesty in the draft legislation. We have there was a commission before the Cannabis Commission, which was reduced recently to a working committee. Now, that legislation spoke to an amnesty, and it would have this amendment that is of moment. And this is what we're working on now.
Right.
This amendment would take into consideration to expunge records, to grant an amnesty to persons who were, in charge and that sort of thing. Whatever record there was would be wiped out, would be depenalized, as they say, so that there would be no record against these young people's name. This guy in particular, when the legislation comes in, this 20-year-old I read to you, he would be
clean, expunged.
His record would be expunged, and he can then pursue his career as he sees fit. No, this was almost a draft, the Drug Abuse Prevention and Control Amendment Bill. The last commission had suggested an amendment to the draconian provisions of the Drug Act. Those amendments were to be, to Section 6. There were going to be fixed penalty notices. There would be prohibition of public places. For example, the legislation has suggested includes an indoor or outdoor public place, includes an indoor or outdoor area, whether privately or publicly owned, to which the public has access by right or by invitation express or implied, whether by payment of money or not, including all commercial, agricultural, and industrial zone lands and properties, bars, drinking places, beaches, restaurants and clubs, tourist establishment, hotels and guest houses, schools, and all other educational institutions, hospitals, whether public or privately operated, churches or other religious establishments, except as is permitted under the Act or other law, correctional facilities, whether public or private operated, public transportation, government offices, other places of buildings or types accessible to the public. So that there's a prohibition of the use recreationally in public places, which would include schools, hospitals. You cannot be found smoking in those places. And this is consistent with international law. With international law dealing with cannabis consumption.
But I want to ask this question, because people are concerned now, as to matter of fact, like if there were to be a situation where they have a tree or two in the backyard, for personal use, if that would be prohibited.
No, it shouldn't be. Because if we are moving, this is a sort of partial reprieve granted for the time being to amend certain aspects of the law. And if we are moving to legalize, we decriminalize it now. But eventually we want to create an industry. So that how are you going to begin to get seeds and develop a seed bank? How are you going to begin to regulate simple possession so that I am entitled to walk with 66 grams as for personal use? So where is that going to come from? And you have a prohibition on export, on import. You haven't gotten to legislation where we import and export. Okay? That is for the bigger picture, bigger regulatory framework. So that in the meantime, you're still encouraging an illegal importation of cannabis into the country if you prohibit every household from growing between 3 to 5 trees. You must grow it. And if you are able to get seeds from St. Vincent that are medicinal, not having the THC, but the seed DB, then you must permit a certain amount to be grown. You have people suffering with asthma, epilepsy, cancer, you name it. And there's a cure, seriously ill people. Why can't they grow 2 or 3 medicinal plants in their backyard? And maybe 2 or so plants with the THC for recreational purposes. Why try to inhibit that? If you don't permit it, then you have to import it because the demand is there for it. You can't stop it now.
And it's your right to have those in your possession.
You have a right to have it in your possession anyhow. There are cases in South Africa, cases in St. Kitts Nevis, where in fact, without a legislative framework in place, judges are beginning to say, look, we're not going to send guys to prison for having 3 or 4 marijuana cigarettes. The unfortunate thing is, we have to give a conviction because they pleaded guilty, and this is what we're trying to erase. But when we erase that and you tell them they can walk with 66 grams or an ounce, let's just say an ounce for private use, where's it going to come from if you don't allow them to plant 2 or 3 trees?
They would have to purchase it.
Well, import it.
But it's illegal to come in.
Yes.
So you're going around in circles. We have to take a definitive step. Look, you could plant 3 trees if you want 2 for THC, 3 for medicinal, and let's see when we move to the next phase. People talking about the black market. The black market is on now, and no one can stop it. You only have legislative consequences as a result of having it in your possession.
So what would happen, what could happen in the very near future, in that depends on the type that you want, if it is the DHC, CDB or the
THC, yes.
You'll be able to purchase those seeds, you know.
Yes, well, that's why you have to. Now, this is another dilemma that we are faced with. There should be some provisions made in the initial amendment to the Drug Prevention and Control Act with respect to importation, and we suggested that, so that you wouldn't find folks having to rely on weed coming from St. Vincent, so that you'll have to ease up on the importation. I'm just looking to see where it is we had recommended to the minister, as he then was. Let's see. Section 5, Section 13, the Principal Act creates the offense of smoking or vaporizing cannabis in public places. That's a little further importation. So that has to be Section 43 of the Principal Act we are seeking to amend. Let me see what 43 says.
And just to remind our listeners, we're going to open up the lines in just a little while in case you have a question or two to pose to the panel. The special Mr. Anselm Clouden, who's here with us on the discussion. Give us a little while. We're going to open up the lines in just a matter of minutes from now, so you could participate in the conversation if you would like to. Okay. Now, let me get to you, Coy, while Mr. Clouden is trying to find out a section that refers to what he's saying.
Yeah.
Now, in the past, as you very well know, that people have been using cannabis, and now there's going to be a sort of a restriction for the use of it in public spaces. Now, how do you think that that would be looked at? You know,
restriction in public places.
With public. Yeah, well, definitely.
Yes.
You know,
so,
I mean,
so
private.
are you saying that it is now used in public spaces without any kind of control?
Well, I mean, it's been used, and they are trying to control it, because you very well know, you know, that if you were to be seen by the law enforcement officers, you know, they're going to deal with you.
Yeah. And dealing with you might cause you to be liable to possession.
Right.
In possession, one or two or three sticks, accordingly, what the law says. So, but I think there need to be. You see, seeing that we are going through this phase, this process, there should be a period, a cutoff period. Between now, let's say the next 6 months, if that's the time, that's the thing that they will be able to deal with it. Next 6 months, amnesty. So, how it's happening now, it's available. At some stage, we have to be able to control
a cutoff point.
But now, and during this process, educate people. Tell them what they can do, because you know, I'm hearing Mr. Cloud talking about THT and so on. Now we know if we want it, if we have the need for it for medicinal value, then we just can't get any and anything.
Let me open the lines. Let me take a call. Vibes FM, landline caller. Okay, next caller, landline UNX. Hello.
Good morning.
Yeah, morning, yeah.
So Mr. Clouden, the government had put a committee in place, I think it was for 6 months or 1 year, to work on this marijuana issue. Now a second committee in place. What happened to the first? They were not working or what? Why they have a new one?
You want me to reply?
Yes.
Well, it was felt that committee was too big. It included, this committee has been condensed to experts. We have Dr. Charles, who's a Caracuan, he's the CMO. He's on the committee. You have a psychologist, I think it's Dr. Hector. You have public relations person, Mr. Lazarus from GIS. So you have more or less persons who are, let's say, qualified in their own field, contributing to their knowledge to the committee as a whole, with the hope that we would come up with cogent recommendations for the amendment in the first instance to the Principal Act, and subsequently a comprehensive piece of legislation that the consultants see, and they're working on that now, with respect to the cannabis industry itself, both for medicinal, recreational, religious, I say religious and sacramental, and of course industrial by the growing of hemp and the like, and of course research. So that's a framework that we're trying to correct.
Caller, go ahead, yeah.
But I think this thing is taking too long.
Everybody's saying the same thing.
It's taking too long.
Yeah,
this thing is a bigger push.
Yes, indeed.
Concerning I heard Coy made a statement. I can't remember the exact word, but I remember me and Matli in Barbados. She said to legalize the smoking of marijuana, because not everybody that will be able to stand it, just like cigarette smoking. She said that she will have to put that restriction on cigarette smoking first in public places, because they can't tell the man who smokes cigarette he could smoke it anyway, and the man who smoke marijuana can't smoke it anyway. So they are working on a legislation. I don't know how far they reach yet, to make sure that they don't have any quarrel or confusion when it is legalized. So they will be coming up with a policy to ban cigarette smoking in public places. So when they ban marijuana smoking in public places, there will be no confusion. I think we also should be looking at that. Now, I'm one person who interested in the legalization of marijuana. My experience with it, I drank it once. My brother gave me that because I had the cold. And next morning when I wake up, no stuffy nose, no sneezing, no coughing, cold gone. I went on GBN, all to the point, and I make it known, and I said it is time that we do something about it.
Yeah.
This marijuana, instead of they saying how much properties it has and what it could do for us, because of the foreign pressure, we have it on the backbone, and I find that should stop. The Bible says the herb, and that's what God told Adam, the herb is for the healing of the nation. Why we sick, get worse and die after getting so much treatment because we are using the wrong thing. Pharmaceutical medicine don't cure nobody, they only treat you. But the herbs, many people could tell you, there are a number of herbs that we're using in Grenada, through the Caribbean and Africa, but a lot of us don't have any family doctor. I'll be 63 years old this year. I don't have a family doctor. The only time I know myself went to a doctor was to explain to me my cholesterol results. Because what they put on the paper for me, I don't know about it. So I went to a doctor to get that done. My parents grew up on what we call bush tea. Later in life, I found out that it's herb. And we grew up healthy and strong. I grew up my 2 children. When the bottle nipple couldn't go in the mouth yet, I had some tin plastic spoons. I used to draw the bush. I know them not by name, but I know my father used to bring them home. And I give them children as babies. And they grow up strong and healthy too. My first son, the first time he see a doctor, is to do his, after he do his last getting as a baby, the first time he go to a doctor was to get a medical for his job. The second one, because he had a broken bone and he was in hospital. And we go not having doctor. So it's time that we here, maybe we have to put pressure on our authorities to legalize this thing and teach our people to use the herbs than running to doctors and pharmacies. Good day.
Thank you,
caller, thank you so much. Yeah, Mr. Clouden, you listen to some of the comments they're making there. What my question is about medicinal use. Now, how do you determine that you're using it for that, or how the authorities? Yes. Go ahead. No, that's fine.
Sorry.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry, Kim.
Yeah.
I thought Leo had taken the phone off.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, just let me get it off now.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm so sorry, Kim.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Let me try to explain to you. Access to medicinal cannabis. You must have, first of all, a doctor who's trained in the use of herbal medicine. Now, you hear doctors from time to time saying that when they were at medical school, they weren't trained in nutrition, so and herbal medicine, so nutrition wasn't part of the curriculum. Well, because of the advent of this new industry, the cannabis medicinal industry, it has compelled doctors to equip themselves by further training in the as to how you administer herbal medicine. That's what it is. So that you would have authorization for prescription and use for medicinal cannabis. So a doctor, the pharmacies would buy them, put them on for sale, and you go to the doctor, and the doctor would determine if it is necessary for you to use it. If he so determines, then he gives you a prescription,
to go to the pharmacy,
which you go to the pharmacy with. Submission of medical certificate by medical doctor. So Your medical certificate, the doctor will give you a medical certificate, you take it to the pharmacy, and with his prescription, the pharmacist would administer the cannabis to you. And he said the certificate would specify what information to be included in the medical certificate. There must be a keeping of records, so that if you're a patient using medicinal marijuana for all kinds of pain, then your record would so reflect. The difficulty we have now, someone coming in from Germany, St. Vincent, Canada, who can walk with a prescription, who have been given medicinal cannabis as a cure or a treatment for the ailment, when you get to Grenada, you can't use it. And you can't walk with your supply. Because if you're apprehended at the airport, you will be charged under this law. So they're keeping tourists from coming to the country. Not so?
Just a minute. Lana Nkola, you got a question?
Hello?
Yes, you have a question. Yeah.
I want to ask Mr. Cloud. Mr. Clouden, good morning.
Good morning, my dear.
Listen, I hear you mention that under 18 years shouldn't smoke the weed because the brain and develop. I want to ask you, what could you do? What information you could give to stop the under 18 in our country? Don't you know 10-year-old smoking the weed? And if they ain't reach 18 years yet and they're smoking and that's going to handbug the brain, I would like you to give a little information. What they could do, what tips you could give them to let them know the danger of under 18 smoking weed. I want to find out again, Mr. Clouden. You are talking about the weed. I want to find out if all you decide to operate like our nutmeg and cocoa. From the field, you ship it out, and then you get back mile or what the case may be. Or in Grenada, from the field, we bring it in the lab. We get we oil, we get we clothes, we get we medicine. How will you decide to operate on this island with the weed? Bring it in, have factory to get the real deal from it, or you plant it and you ship it out?
There are all kinds of ways to prepare it, and it depends on what you're preparing it for. Naturally, there will be an export import authority to secure the export, and in some instances, especially with respect to seeds, if we can engineer it ourselves, we have to import. So that there will be an authority set up to manage the preparation. First of all, you can have what is called planters cooperatives, and this is the way I would recommend we go. So that the cooperative has members and the members are producers. So once you produce the weed, it's been processed and it's been prepared for export. And there would be, just as you have our cocoa and our nutmeg being exported to Europe, the medicinal marijuana would be exported in like manner under certain regulatory controls.
Okay, so they're going to be an exporter who would be getting from the
that's right,
the producers,
from the producers, so that, for example, medicinal cannabis, as I saw in St. Vincent and in Canada, is grown under strict conditions, climatically and otherwise. So that if the members of the public, farmers want to grow, have the farmers cooperative and so forth, they can grow the same medicinal weed in their own greenhouses and sell it to one of the major producers, and they put it through the export-import authority that would be mandated to export medicinal cannabis.
Okay, don't take another call there. Vibes FM, Lana Nkola, come in.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead,
Good afternoon to the panel.
Good afternoon.
Kim, I listened to Mr. Clouden for many times about on this marijuana business. Mr. Clouden went to Sylvester one time, got some report, and Mr. Clouden came back. Mr. Clouden gave us some report. I don't think anybody could have understood what Mr. Clouden saying, but Mr. Clouden know better than any one of us. Now, Mr. Clouden always talk about St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Let me say this to you, and people should try to find out for themselves, especially with St. Vincent and the Grenadines. For example, in January of 2022, January 28th of 2022, right? St. Vincent and the Grenadines exported 110 pounds of medicine or cannabis, which comprised of 49.8 kilograms, to Germany after receiving a license to Germany. You already spoke about export to Germany and whatnot. This is a fact. You could get that, and that is after getting a license from Germany. 110 pounds, 49.8 kilos. And you hear Mr. Clouden talking about this billion of dollars and whatnot. You could go and see how much money this 110 pounds of cannabis, 49.8 kilograms, how much money that cannabis to Germany after getting the license, how much money it is. So I'm only saying this to say this. Mr. Clouden should come out and tell us very much, more clearly. Kim, what I understand, this marijuana thing have a long way to go before it's implemented. There is a lot of legal procedure. For example, it's talking about medicine and whatnot. The money, the machine or whatever to manufacture the cannabis to make it medically fit to consume. Grenada have to go through a whole system and get people, licensed people, to start the process before this thing to come in operation. Mr. Clouden knew that very well. Let the people know the process and the procedure. Don't make people believe, oh, they're taking too long, it's this one and what one. It's a legal process. For this thing to be legally exported, manufactured, it's a lot of things you have to go through. And Mr. Clouden must come out clearly and tell people because he knew very well. He has an idea. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Clouden.
I agree with the caller in the context that, look, it takes time to develop the industry. You're right. And it calls for huge investment of capital for machinery, for greenhouses, and for seeds. So we have to create a seed bank. But we can overcome all these difficulties if we put our minds to it and take it one day at a time. But there's a fierce urgency to avoid criminalizing our people unnecessarily.
Yeah, that's part.
Decriminalize it.
Yes.
Vibes FM, next line caller?
Yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead,
Joe Biden, the President of the United States, is looking out to reclassify marijuana. I don't know how much people heard that. To get it straight, I just went back on your trip to pull it. I heard the news post on CNN. I just went back on your trip there to make sure is that what I heard. And he and the feds now is working on that to reclassify marijuana. They removing it from a category 1 drug to a category 3. And I remember Biden saying that it is not negative as we once thought. I listened part of his speech just a while ago.
Okay.
Now, the thing is, the tobacco industry warred against the marijuana industry in the States in the early years. And they won. Marijuana could never be a drug. A drug, as I learned from school, is a byproduct of another, and that is made in a lab. A herb is a plant that grows. Marijuana is a plant. It is. I know the smoking of the marijuana is not the best way to do it. It is most effective by drinking. Okay? The Americans understanding that. So what they're doing now, They have large plantations of marijuana. They're doing that in big business. Mike Tyson and all get on board. There are states in the United States where they give people 1 day to go in a park and smoke marijuana. But you cannot leave the park with peace. Okay? They all come into their senses. As Biden says, they are rewriting the wrong on marijuana. But we in Grenada, some of us, we're so attached to the negative that they taught us at one time that they don't even want to hear the word marijuana. They don't want to hear it. But it is big businesses in the world today. And they're getting good medical results from it when they use it properly that pharmaceutical medicine don't give. Good day.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let me just make a...
Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
Let me make this statement now, and let me clear the air once and for all. It is recommended with respect to selling and distributing of cannabis to young persons. I had suggested in the proposal on the last commission that unless authorized under that act, it is prohibited to sell cannabis or cannabis accessory that has an appearance, shape, or other sensory attribute or a function that there are reasonable grounds to believe could be appealing to young persons. So you don't put nice things on a package and so forth to attract a young person. That's prohibited. Mm-hmm. Selling cannabis accessories to a young person, unless otherwise authorized, it is prohibited to sell a cannabis accessory to a young person. And most importantly, it was recommended, it is not a defense to a charge under subsection 1 that the accused believe that the young person referred to in that subsection was at least 18 years of age, unless the accused took reasonable steps to ascertain the individual age. So, whereas in certain criminal statutes, it says that with respect to rape, if you honestly believe that a person is over 18 or over 16, being 17 or 18, then that may be a defense in criminal law. That defense doesn't transcend into the legislative framework for cannabis. So that if you have a package in your commercial establishment and you think the person is over 18, let us say, and you sell it to them, and it is discovered that the person is under 18, it's not a defense on the basis of your belief. You had to get an ID card, and that is going to be part of the legislation. Just as you have your driver's license. So you come in and you're looking small, because some people have small bone, but they have age. And some people have age but small bone.
Vibes FM, line 9 caller.
Yes, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
To everybody.
Yeah,
good morning to Mr. Clouden. Thank you for your patience, Mr. Clouden, because it's a new thing that you are trying to introduce to the country. And so I am glad that you have the patience to listen to everybody, all the questions thrown at you, because it is a new thing and you want, when it's done, it's pleasing to everybody. I have been listening to the discussion, and to the gentleman who said marijuana is a herb, so it's good. I just want to say, well, there are some herbs that are not good. For example, black sage is now banned by the Kidney Association. They said that they are finding that the people who come down with kidney diseases, the kidneys are coated with the roughness of the black sage leaf. Okay, and black sage can be classified as a herb. So not because it is a herb gives it a pass mark. And then again, we know one man meat is another man poison. We have heard in listening to different calling programs. Only last week, a parent almost in tears, a mother, was talking about what marijuana, what has happened to her son as a result of smoking marijuana. Now, I heard Mr. Clouden say that it will be banned. I'm not sure if I heard that, so that's why I'm calling. I want a little clarification. But before I ask the question, I'm wondering, Mr. Clouden, you following what happened in Thailand?
Yes, well, I've heard about it, but Thailand is based on their own community. At one time, it was if you were caught with a narcotic, and the international statutes classified at the time, and that's why Biden has moved it from a category 1 to 3, as the previous caller has said. At one time, if you were caught in Thailand with a narcotic, i.e. cannabis, you were going to face the death penalty. And
Yes.
they have their own political...
But simply put, what I saw online is that they said the whole place started to smell of marijuana, and which is not fair to the people who don't want it in their system. And they said also young children, everybody, the place just went marijuana crazy. So they could not control it, so they reversed it back into a controlled substance.
No, that may be so because of their societal... it hasn't happened in St. Vincent. It's not happening in Grenada. People smoking.
I don't know if it will happen in Grenada. Only this morning I saw a gentleman with a big, long spliff in his mouth, and it's still illegal. And I mean, he was there in the public.
They caught it. Got caught it.
Yeah,
but
I
we have...
moved because I didn't want it in my system. I have been around people smoking it openly, and I would just excuse myself. Is there a wish? But as I say, we know one man's meat is another man's poison.
Well, you know, cigarette smoking is advertised on every box. Cigarette smoking kills. We have living evidence of it. The lungs go, your prostate goes. It's deadly. And it's still in the shops for sale. You all ain't complaining about that.
Right.
And they still smoke it in public places all over the place. Everybody light up the cigarette. And
that should not be confused with this issue. That is another issue which must be taken up. But it must not be confused. We must stay focused on what we're discussing now, the marijuana. And I would like you to clarify, I don't know if you were listing, because I was in and out, so if you were listing places where it's not accepted as is not accepted to smoke, and I believe I heard hospitals.
Well, of course you can go smoking in a hospital.
But you did say that is the medicinal part of the marijuana we're focusing on?
No, well, let me tell you, the medicinal part is not smoking, you know.
Okay, all right.
I mean, the medicinal part is taking it through oils, teas. I mean, they have different methods of consumption.
Okay, so
smoking is only basically for recreational. And very few people smoke.
Well, some people say they drink it for recreational.
Well, I love drinking my tea. I mean, it does me great good with my pressure.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
Mr. Clouden, like I'm seeing, education
man,
is key.
Yes.
In moving this forward.
Of course.
Yeah, we have to educate our public and let them know, because you mentioned some different types there, which I wasn't even aware about when you start talking about the CDV and the THC. And I just know cannabis as a tree, a leaf. You take it on that's it.
Yeah.
And now with the different types that they will be grown. For different purposes.
That's right.
That's what the public now would need to know.
That's right. And as I've indicated, our doctors now have to be retrained. They have to recalibrate with respect to herbal medicine and nutrition.
Right.
Because you can bake this thing too, put it in cookies. You go to the Netherlands and everywhere. I mean,
they're doing that now?
There's a multiplicity of use. You don't have to smoke it to get the benefit from the THC in the recreational weed. You can bake it in a bread and you get that very, very placid, sobering meditation. As Jeffrey Thompson, but let me tell you this, Jeff Thompson of Rennick and Thompson, the CEO of Rennick and Thompson, authorized me to call his name. And if you go on the Carolina, just one of the biggest agricultural outlets in the country, bringing wines and everything. Jeff said to me, he called me to tell me that I can say to the public, the Grenadian public at large, that he prefers dealing with clients, his customers who smoke marijuana than those who drink alcohol. He says it's always easier. They come in and he does business with them in a calm and efficient manner. But these guys, when they take their drinks and they come to the store, they want to mash up the things in there. so he said I can go publicly and say that. Now this thing has been around for centuries. This is not something new. We have been brainwashed, as slaves and the children of former slave owners as such. We have been brainwashed into thinking that everything they say we must adopt and we must adhere to. But we have found our own pathway now. And we have decided that, look, this thing has such benefits to the human body that we want to establish a legislative framework that would protect, that would ensure quality, and that would ensure that our young people, as the scientific evidence go, would not be injured as a consequence of its consumption. Bearing in mind, however, that the medicinal aspect of it is a completely different thing. This is why St. Vincent and the Grenadines have set up their own authority. Because that's medicinal, and that's a healing aspect of the herb. Yes.
So, Mr. Claude, we know mostly, with us here, we actually more recreational. That's how we approach it.
That's right. Yeah, but we don't have to smoke it to benefit from its medicinal quality or its effect on the recreational aspect that's controlled by the mind or the brain.
Right.
It calms it. Kim, you won't believe. This thing, you go on the beach and you swim, some of the best thoughts come to you. Some of the best thoughts, come to you when you're in a relaxed position. My pressure gone down, and I don't have to take all this medication and all this nonsense.
Mr. Claude, for the person who smokes, let's say in an environment, guys comes around and smoking. For those of us who actually smelling it, right? Wouldn't we be affected as well? Because it's an inhalation, right?
Probably. It may be secondhand smoke, same as cigarette, maybe. And this is why it's prohibited and would be prohibited. It's done in all countries that implemented cannabis legislation. You can't smoke in public places. I have outlined those places to you. You can sell to persons authorized to sell. Okay? It is prohibited for a person that is authorized to sell cannabis to any class that is not referred to in Schedule 4. And we would put the schedule in, just as they have Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3, Schedule 4. And those places, those persons are young people and the like. You see, we have to control public spaces
because I remember once, I had a situation like that where these guys were, doing the thing, real smoking up, And as I entered there, you wouldn't believe it, within minutes I had a serious headache.
Wow.
Serious headache, and I was complaining and they were saying to me, I didn't even understand what they're saying. They said, man, you got contact. I said, what do you But anyway, Mr. Claude.
Yes, sir.
Like I said earlier on, education. And it's going to take a while for people to really understand. And as you move in the legislation forward too, it's a lot of work ahead. A lot of work ahead. For us to really be able to be using it, in the right way, which is, supposed to. And at the end of the day too, the economic benefits that could arrive from growing it.
Yes, of course. There's no doubt whatsoever. And we have seen it in countries the world over.
Yeah, we see some of the figures that they some of them talk about,
Canada, Germany, England now, they're capitalizing on it. And they have put such pressure on us, even to grow it. Now they have taken over, they're growing it medicinally. And we're struggling to be able to get into their market because they set the standards so high.
Right, yeah. But I'm looking at our time, and we said today we got to trim it down, because it's 12 o'clock.
Yeah, I have to go to the funeral.
We have to go to the funeral. But let me get your final take. And don't believe this is like a one-off. You come in here with this topic because, as you know, and I've been saying, there's a lot more information that the public would have to get to understand it.
100%.
Yes, so
we need a minor education program in the schools and everywhere. But it's resources, It
will come. It will come. Yeah. But it's a lot of work.
You see, and the good thing is this government is sincere. We have one of the most visionary prime ministers after Morris and Gary. He's a visionary gentleman. He's caring, and I think he wants to put things right.
Yeah, definitely.
So we can expect to see legislation to bring an ease to the young people under a protective legislative framework, and eventually get into the cannabis industry. We don't have oil. In any event, oil is now regarded as a disastrous.
Whenever it is mentioned,
it
doesn't bring some good feelings.
It doesn't bring some good feelings at all. So that the cannabis industry may be our way of developing, create a lot of employment, create much needed revenue, and it would no doubt assist in healing our sick people, at least our terribly ill, seriously ill citizens could be afforded medicinal cannabis as is done in Israel and Germany and other parts of the world.
Spice weed.
Spice weed.
It sounds lovely.
I like it. Mr. Crowder, once again, let me say thank you. You have enlightened us and given us this is what I would call an introduction of what's to come.
Indeed.
So, in the future, as you go through it with your panel, in the legislating and all the framework you have to put in place there. We're going to get more.
Of course, Kim, I certainly would revisit. I would. It's always a pleasure having me on, and I'm always so happy when I'm home.
Okay, thank you.
Speak to my people.
The
love I have for this place is unbelievable, unmatchable.
And Caracou?
Yeah.
Bogles. We love you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Kim. Have a good day.
Okay, bye.
See you at the funeral.
Yeah, okay.
The views expressed on this program are those of the host and guests.
Oh, gentlemen, as Mr. Claude is leaving, let me just take the music down there, and let's just take this off. Okay, all right, here. Your final thoughts, I forgot.
Yeah, I think what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, the comments on the chat as we follow this, one of the things that we need is education. We need to, even though we have doubts about it, even though we have our own feelings and the way about it, educate ourselves, and that is how we will know. Because I think there are so many important values and important issues that can come out of this, us knowing. And from my own perspective, I think this is a very good step. This is a step in the right direction. Developing this industry and legislating how it's going to be used properly. I think it's good. And let's get to know, because we always say knowledge is power.
Every time.
Yeah, all the time.
And to you, Rodney.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Dr. Sokim. And, it's so wonderful to be here. And, I didn't know I was coming in to meet with Mr. Clouden here. It was great.
Yeah, definitely.
And, and I was more concerned about, especially what he talks about young people being branded. Just the Jaconian law thing, and they have to have this record on the name for just a simple thing that could be, oversight. So the legislation and all these things, and as Tan has mentioned, knowledge. So we need more information, especially on the medicine part of it, as you was mentioning there as well.
Okay.
So I know we sort of are getting ready as our business place and our business persons and so on, concerned about Mr. Paddy, with the funeral and so on, and, condolence to the family.
Okay.
And so on. And we're going to be there.
Okay. And once again, we want to remind our listeners that we have cut the program short today. This is not the normal time that we finish our program, but because of the funeral of the late Franklin Augustine Roberts, otherwise known as Paddy. The funeral is today, so we have a shorter program, but next week, hopefully, we'll be back at the same time.
Can we make it up for next week? We finish earlier this week, so next week, can we add a next hour?
We'll put it on hold. Put it in, okay?
Take care, man.
The views expressed on this program are those of the host and guests and not the views of this radio station.